It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so proud of being in Hong Kong. I'm actually wearing the t-shirt, which I bought from Nike. I had a dreadful experience in Sydney recently. At the end of a long day, I was having a bath to unwind. And while I was having this bath, a drone floated up in front of my bathroom window and started filming me. And if that wasn't terrifying enough for me, imagine the poor person with the camera down below. And so I got fascinated by drones. Are they for good or evil? And I found this footage of drones here in Hong Kong delivering convenience goods, we expect, to a person in a high-density apartment. And I've turned the music down on this advertisement in particular because it's just so incredibly triumphant. You would think that it's a delivery from God right to this lady's hand. And off it goes across a beautiful bay, returns to its catamaran. And it's astonishing. You know, I love footage like this. I love ads. They're the poetry of capitalism. There is so much thought that's gone into that. And I wonder whether drones really mean the same thing the world over. So I did a little bit more looking around. I found some other drone footage.
Drops and roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
So there we go. It's the build-to-rent model of a car. And it's a beautiful ad, but it's fascinating, isn't it, that on one side of the world, drones are seen as this horrible deliverer of consumer behavior. And here in Hong Kong, this almost kind of liberating technology that brings the things we want to us. And it just kind of points to the fascinating thing about being in development is that we need to ask ourselves, particularly as ULI, a global auspice, what are the similarities that we need to be aware of and work with? And what are the differences between our different regions? You know, it's great being here as part of the Asia-Pacific Summit. I'm so proud of the cities in Asia-Pacific. And yet, it would be naive to think that there aren't things to learn from elsewhere around the world. This is the Asian century. We are the place that the rest of the world are looking to at the moment for clues about how to develop the worlds that they're trying to build. So we started a company a while ago now, 13 years, and it's a pretty simple mandate. At Right Angle, we want to understand and improve life in cities. We're urban strategists. We do not know how to design a thing, okay? But we're really, really good at understanding what people will need in the future, how cities are evolving, and then what kind of designers and what kind of experiences will make the most of that future that's coming. Now, working around the globe at the moment, what I'm beginning to pick up on is the great similarities that we have, that we actually share with each other. In London, the kind of glumness, this post-Brexit pain that's being felt by a youthful generation, they've had access to the EU swept out from under their feet, and they're bitter and they're angry at their parents. We work in Johannesburg around Ponte Tower, where people have absolutely nothing, and we're trying to resuscitate slums at the moment to build health and well-being, albeit in a very primitive and simple way, into the lives of people who live in Johannesburg. That need to be healthier is a universal need that we all share, particularly in Hong Kong. In Bangkok, we're beginning to work from, sorry, a bit of a trigger finger, from the chaos of the streets into exemplary, like globally competitive precincts that really brand the city. And we do the same in Sydney with things like Barangaroo, trying to put Sydney on a global map to make it genuinely a global place. But what we do at Right Angle is very different because we actually own our own businesses. So we've helped refurbish this very petite development. And in it, we've refurbished a cinema. We bring real people to that cinema every night. We talk to them about what's going on in their lives. We speak to them in the bar we've created. We love small data, not big data. We love to have a one-on-one conversation with people about what they like and don't like in their life and design around that rather than just aggregate what everyone else is thinking. From workplaces into a hotel, into a new fitness club, what we're doing is we're rolling up our sleeves and we're saying, if the world is not providing the sorts of development we think we need, we'll try and do it ourselves with varying degrees of success, I'm happy to admit. But this is what I've learned through all of our endeavor. And to quote Maya Angelou, we're more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. And so what I wanted to talk to you guys about in the 22 minutes I've got left, and that's plenty of time, you can hear the clink of the champagne glasses. It's really, really desirable. Try and choose the right word there. These are development needs that I think are universal, okay? That we can generalize and say right across the world at the moment. These are the things that we need in development. Cross-sectional communities, and here I think I'm very much reflecting a lot of what Richard Florida was trying to get across when he was presenting today. Let's think about it at a natural level. Okay, there's something that applies the world around, the rules of nature. Diversity breeds life. Darwin will tell you that. A botanist will tell you that. A good architect will tell you that. Anyone of specific intelligence will tell you diversity is a good thing. If you look at the sorts of ecosystems that support life, there's a symmetry to them. Look at a tributary in a river with lots of fish and reeds and lots of things going on, and the symmetry of Manhattan, almost a replica for it. Look at the jungles of the Amazon and all of their flora and fauna in different shapes and sizes, and compare that to Johannesburg, 26 national languages in South Africa, all sorts of architecture from the radical and new David IJ to the absolutely decrepit, but it all just works. It comes together as a package. And I hope I'm not insulting anyone too badly here, but this is the opposite. The bad old days of Canary Wharf. Just one masterstroke, one thing. It's a business park. That's what it was. And to its credit, it's retrofitted a lot of things into it, and it's now a decent place to work. But that is like the Gobi Desert of development. We need to have diversity in the places that we create because that's what people want. They want variety. So we've oversimplified our cities. And we've oversimplified our communities. It's what big businesses do because we need to be efficient. We just put everything apart. The old people go there. The young people go there. The wealthy people over there. The poor people over there. And it's convenient, but it's actually not healthy in the grand scheme of things. And I think what Richard Florida would say if he was in the room was that it's exactly that sort of thinking, that separating of rich and poor, which actually creates the problems that America's enduring at the moment. So we can't continue to separate people in this way. It's very interesting looking at build to rent. I love this picture. There's a project we're working on in London at the moment. In the back is the Shard, literally the pinnacle of wealth in London. And in the foreground, Elephant and Park, which is an entirely new neighborhood in a very down and out neighborhood in England. And let me tell you, if we cannot put people into that development of lower means and make it indistinguishable, we don't have to make them rich. We need to make sure that their poverty or relative poverty is indistinguishable. That's our job. We can't have people identify as being poor through the way that we design and develop. So these sorts of towers, I'm tired of them. The oligarch up the top, everyone else down below. It's such a brutal and simple way of pointing out the haves and the have-nots. And I compare that to something like the Interlace in Singapore. Where's the penthouse there? You can't see it. See, that's the beauty of the design. That really, whether you're of greater or lesser means in that design, you're not distinguished by it. And that's an incredibly important human thing for us to do, to treat people as equals regardless of bank balance. But we've also separated our old from our young, and I think that this is a problem. What I would say is we've separated out our wise from our naive. So old people have, I think, a very nasty tendency because they don't understand young people that well. They think that they're all like this. And this is K11 Artmore, which does a fantastic job at driving Instagram. And there's lots of ads like this one from Diesel, which I think kind of put a finger on what most people think of Gen Y and Gen Z. It's not true. It's not fair. This was a generation that has never known life without the internet. They have always been connected to others. So they, much more than my generation X, we're selfish. We've always thought of ourselves. When I see an ad for Mercedes-Benz yesterday, all roads lead to me. That's the Gen X ad for me. That's for me, for sure. But it's not fair to think of this generation as just being self-obsessed in the way that we do. And we've got these beautiful kind of tendencies to gather people, but in a very specific demographic, and we think that's what the old people do. But look here in Hong Kong, that's what the young people do. My point is we're really not so different, okay? And we need to probably stop listening to the media that tries to beat the drum about our intergenerational differences and try and bring people together in cross-sectional communities which create a comfortable, respectful place for people regardless of whether they are teenagers or they're in their 90s or even their hundreds, as we're talking about at the moment. I want to quite proudly present a case study from Australia alongside what I think is one of the most beautiful quotes I've read this year. We have to fight age discrimination through excellence in design. We have to design for ourselves, keeping in mind that we'll be older in the future. So this is the Wollumba Elders Centre. This was a community that was not designed this way. It was totally flattened by floods. And one of the huge problems that it endured was that the old people of the community were entirely marginalized through the design of the pre-existing community. When they rebuilt it, and it's similar to a lot of Japanese post-earthquake architecture, they solved some problems. That big building in the middle, big by Australian standards, I get, is the elders community. Literally and figuratively the heart of the community as it now stands. The most beautiful building. The place where elderly people feel respected, where their wisdom is shared. The most beautiful place that there is. So this kind of proves the role, the responsibility of us as designers and developers to look at the margins of our communities and see if we can solve it a little bit through design and through programming. It's possible to do. It shouldn't take a flood for us to solve a problem this significant. So I would love to see in cities that we can begin to make them cross-sectional. Let's bring people and commerce together, more mixed use. Let's bring the global and the local together. Nothing more thrilling in Hong Kong than the 50 different languages that you can hear on the street. We are the world, the whole world at the moment. Let's bring haves and have-nots closer. Let's bring the young and the wise together. And let's bring the East and the West together. I'm a relative Westie. As an Australian, you're an Anglo-Saxon on the end of the world. And you're trying to work out whether you're part of the Asian century. And that is such a ridiculous thing to try and work out. Because of course you should be. It is the most exciting thing. We have so much to learn from Asian cities and cultures. We, I think, in the East now have a real responsibility to the West. Place leadership is what's incumbent upon us to deliver. Now, the next trend I want to talk about is just imaginative urbanism. And this is a real feel-good piece for the end of the day, because I know you guys have been sitting in here since 8:30 or something horrific. But we haven't really engaged our citizens or delighted them with some pretty important issues in cities. So, considering the technology that we have to deliver incredibly sustainably designed buildings, I wonder why it is that if you ask most people in the streets, they say that sustainability is important, but they're not delighted by it. that's what sustainability looks like and feels like these days. And here is how we discuss it. In these like abysmal forums with lots of nerdy people talking about technology. I wonder why the 15-year-old kids are not thrilled by sustainability. Okay, that's our fault. Sustainability is very important to young people, but this is how we address it at the moment. This is why we need a more creative approach to messaging about sustainability. Buildings like this is actually a sewage treatment plant, okay, on the inside of the Omega Center. Not machines, but plants to treat the bad stuff. But most importantly, a beautiful yoga room to show that human beings are also part of the ecosystem. We too need to be regenerated. We too need restorative environments. So this kind of thinking is delightful. I look at the retail in Bangkok at the moment. The Commons is a stunning piece of architecture. It has some interesting retailers in it, but more stunning than anything else is that statement. Our intention is to build first a community, then a mall. To decommoditize shopping. That's imaginative urbanism. So I really love that we can do very expensive things like the new Louvre, Market Hall, what a beautiful shopping center, but we don't always have those budgets. And what I'm really, really interested in, and this is our possibility as thoughtful, creative people, are the cheap and cheerful things that we can do to make our cities more delightful, whether it be signage that makes a laneway safe. A sense of humor on a hoarding would be really good for once. Or a basketball court, rejuvenated beautifully in Paris. That's a lick of paint. That's a vector graphic. And we in this development industry, we have a habit of forking out huge amounts of money for place activation. And we get gouged by opportunistic people when really sometimes what we need is a very, very simple solution to lift the spirits and make people feel proud of their city. Wear the logo on your shirt. So I wanted to leave you guys with some future fit words. I'm trying to write a book at the moment. Here's my sample of it. It's a work in progress, but I feel like we're a little bit sloppy with how we use the language of cities. You know, who wants to tell me what placemaking means? I'm pretty sure no one will put up their hands, right? I'm willing to take it. We just use the same words in different meanings, and we have some words which are redundant. So I wanted to leave you with 3 words which I think are incredibly important to the 21st century in development, to all of our jobs. Habitat, not asset class, not commercial tower, not residential tower. Habitat, an ecology within which people succeed, survive, thrive. This is PMQ in Hong Kong, like a refurb of a police station that is, you know, I don't necessarily love all of the retail, but the way that it is composed is stunning. It is intricate, it is complex, it is strategically complex. It is a whole system of people launching their careers, socializing, being in the greenery, being in the small spaces. There is a Muji found, there is an ABC kitchen. It is a habitat, a necessarily complex development, and that's exactly what we need at the moment to nurture talent. Presilience is not a typo, I promise. I learnt this word when I was in South Africa, surprisingly, scrawled on a wall in downtown Johannesburg, presilience. And I thought, that's brilliant. Like, what a defeatist word resilience is. And I know we've all said it 100 times over the last 2 days, but like the whole idea of resilience is that something you never saw coming came, and hopefully you survived and you're resilient. And we as human beings are capable, and there are so many smart people that can help us with this, of interpreting not with exactitude, but with reasonable certainty what lies up ahead. So we need presilient development, development which is actually thought far into the future about what may come and will be ready for it. So these men are wearing the buildings that they designed. And all of these men are dead, okay? And all of their buildings are not dead. All of their buildings are still useful. So this is the thing about property, which sometimes we forget because we've got investors who want to see returns every June. The things that we build and design outlive us, and we owe it to the people who use those places to think about what they will need and what their children will need. The Meiji Jingu Shrine, the wood in that, okay, that was planted 4 generations before it was used. How many of us are working on projects where we're thinking about what we're doing for 4 generations' time? We seem to just be on this aggressive cycle at the moment. It is short-sighted. People with very short-term motivations, making decisions with long-term consequences, are the root of all evil. That's the problem with sustainability. And the last word I want to finish off on is Anthropocene. So there are all of these ages. There's the Ice Age, the Agricultural Age, the Industrial Age. Through these ages, ice was the major factor on the environment and climate, then agriculture, then industrial. We are in the Anthropocene age. This is the human age right now, okay? Now very soon, maybe even it's begun, is the digital age. And it's all very pretty at the moment, and we talk about it in glowing terms, as if technology is going to solve all of our problems. And I'm an optimist. I believe that technology can be used for good. This is a fantastic visualization of what technology looks like for Face ID software. And it's beautiful and hypnotic, and you can't help but fall in love with it. But I really caution us that these could be the last decades where human beings are the most significant factor and force in this earth. So I would like to think that as we begin to go forward with our development, that we always remember that this is time for humans, okay? That let's put people at the very center of our decision making. Let's realize our job is not done. The Asian century, incredible, what a success. What about the African century? When we're at peak population, the majority of people in the world will live in Africa. How are we going to solve their problems? What can we be learning about now that we can be translating to a totally different environment and bring the same kind of resourcefulness and creativity and hopefully success to the whole planet? So thank you very much for having me.